I think that being in the aviation industry, which I've been in the aviation industry for over 16 years now. I started in the flight training realm, was a flight instructor for numerous years, and then went into the corporate aviation realm, flying mid-sized business jets, and then into management and into the regulatory space. And I've worked through UAS, unmanned aircraft systems side of the industry, and that brought me to Beta. And Beta is headquartered in Burlington, Vermont, which is unique in itself. Most of the startups that you find in this realm are more in Silicon Valley. And so to have this here in New England caught my attention. And what is this mission? What drew Kyle to this realm? And it really spoke to the aviator in me, because Beta has a deep-seated culture of aviation that is at the foundation of everything that we do. And so getting to talk to you today about Beta, it really is, aviation is an element of my identity, and I'm excited to share it with you. And just about the future of the industry. So I'll start by just saying aviation has always evolved in response to the defining pressure of its era. In World War I, it proved viable. In World War II, it proved essential. And by the dawn of the jet age, an aircraft like the de Havilland Comet, the world became smaller, faster, more interconnected. And then for decades, the industry focused on one thing: safety. And now aviation is one of the safest forms of transportation today. But we're facing new challenges in this evolving time. And the systems that sustain aviation are threatening to be broken. And so how do we solve for flight being on this unsustainable trajectory? I think that when we look at the future of what's coming, when we look at the next era of innovation and what's going to be necessary to scale the industry, it's going to respond to those challenges. We're facing emissions constraints, fuel price volatility, infrastructure strain, and intensifying global competition. And defining how we respond to those challenges, how we innovate and deliver, is going to be the resolution. And the companies that respond to that may not be the boldest in concept, but they will be the most disciplined in execution. Now, if you follow this space at all, you're probably familiar with terms like eVTOL and air taxi. You've seen futuristic renderings of aircraft that have been lifted off of a city rooftop. But I kind of pull back the lens a little bit to say that not only are we looking at a scalable industry in the right of those concepts, but we have these other methods that we're bringing to market through the CTOL, our conventional takeoff and landing aircraft, and just focusing on some of the first principles that create the industry and make it scalable. So Beta is really solving for more than just a concept. It's building a system that will work. But where did it start? So Beta was founded in 2017, but even years before that, Beta was actually our founder's senior thesis at Harvard. And when he met Martine Rothblatt, who shared that vision for the future, he was able to then take this into a practical prototype. And he built his first aircraft that was actually a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft, an eVTOL, in a tilt rotor configuration. It flew, it proved technical capability. And then the team made a decision that would actually define the trajectory of the company, which is that it was too complex. Too much reliance on liquid cooling, too many moving parts, too difficult to certify efficiently in the near term. So not only did Kyle and the team transition to a different eVTOL design in a lift plus cruise configuration that you'll see, but they also pivoted to a whole new philosophy: simplicity, which has now been our strategic advantage in everything that we do. So when we look at a few elements of what makes this aircraft new and novel, let's start at the energy storage systems, the batteries. So Beta is designing, manufacturing, testing, and just iterating on our energy storage systems. What is needed to electrify aviation as core foundations, right? We have a state-of-the-art battery testing facility in St. Albans, Vermont, where we're harvesting immense amounts of data and just understanding these at their core ability. But where this technology really shines is in its path to certification. What we're finding as we're going through this, there are certain standards that you have to meet to certify this technology, one of which is containment. So if your battery installed on an airplane has an event called a thermal runaway event, you have to be able to contain that long enough to get the aircraft safely on the ground. Containment. At Beta, we said, we can do that, absolutely. But what if we asked a different question? What if we could prevent it from ever happening? So when we look at our technology and the advancements that we've been able to make, we have sensor technology and deep data integration that we're able to take and show the regulators that we can predict long before an event is about to occur that it's going to happen. And if we get credit for that in the certification process, you're actually incentivizing manufacturers to create safer systems. This isn't just meeting the bar for safety, we're now raising it. And this is a perfect example of where innovation is driving safety. Another element that makes this new and novel is the electric propulsion. You see here, Beta has started our certification approach with a stepwise approach to market. Again, simplicity. So we're driving a very pragmatic stepwise approach. We started with the propeller, which we certified last year in partnership with Hartzell. Done. We move on to the engine now. This is the first electric engine on track to be certified later this year in the US under Part 33, which is the existing framework for certifying electric engines or engines in general. And by the way, also the new type of propulsion system to be introduced since the 1950s. This aircraft has no combustion, no liquid cooling, fewer moving parts. That drives down your maintenance burden, which drives down your operating costs for the operator. That means scalability for the industry. And for investors, that's a fundamentally stronger economic model. It's a true unlock. Now we port that engine into the CTOL, again, the conventional takeoff and landing aircraft, which is a really fancy way for saying airplane. But the CTOL, being, again, certified under the existing regulatory frameworks of Part 23, no special conditions. So recognizing where the regulatory readiness is today while we're still solving for what's needed for the future, because this airplane requires no special training. It requires that you basically can go fly it in the airspace that we have today and into the existing airport infrastructure. It's a seamless integration. We then step into the VTOL. The VTOL is being certified under Part 2117 Bravo as a special class project. And again, you see the lift plus cruise configuration there with the 4 rotors on top, which means it takes off like a helicopter. When it gets on the wing into wing-borne flight, those rotors stop. It can fly like an airplane. That increases your range. Then, when it's ready to land again, those turn back on, it comes back in like a helicopter and lands. Now, the strategic advantage between how we've actually broken this out is that these two aircraft variants share 80% commonality in design. So basically, cut off the top, and you have the CTOL. That streamlines manufacturing with a fungible production line. It streamlines certification with artifacts that can be reused between the two aircraft in the common systems, and training. We've now created a stepwise approach into what is a new category of aircraft. So these are powered lift aircraft, which means that you have to get a powered lift rating to be able to fly it. The other thing is that we are starting with a cargo and medical logistics first approach to certification, opening up rural access before we're stepping into that passenger and urban operations. So again, a stepwise, pragmatic, simple approach to certification. Now I want to pull the thread on that training piece a little bit because I am a pilot. I come from the training world, and to me, this was one of the biggest advantages of how we've done this. So I fly our CTOL right now. When I first got into that aircraft, one of my biggest concerns, I said, I've flown aircraft from small aircraft to jets. What is it going to be like to fly an electric aircraft? Energy management versus fuel management. Fly-by-wire flight controls wasn't something I'd ever flown before. And so I carried a lot of bias. What is this going to be like? I shouldn't have doubted my engineering team. It was an amazing experience. It's very simple. And again, going back to that simplicity that we've designed with. But what I really want to point out is that it is the same cockpit, the same avionics, and the same handling characteristics in wing-borne flight as the CTOL for the VTOL. In fact, we developed a 5-module training syllabus for the VTOL, and the first 3 modules are the CTOL syllabus. So you have now a step into a new category of aircraft. So all you have to think about when you get into the VTOL are the components that make it vertical. Aircraft alone do not create a new industry. Beta had the foresight to think about the charging network that would be required. So Beta today developed, manufactured, and has deployed the only UL certified charger on the market. This is a multimodal and interoperable charger, meaning that it can work with the Beta aircraft, but it can also work with any other aircraft that uses a CCS standard, which the majority of industry does. And it can charge ground EVs. So as airports go to electrify their fleets, these can charge those as well. I have a Rivian, I can charge it on a Beta charger. So again, we did not want to encounter a bottleneck. So we identified it and we removed it early ourselves. And this isn't just, again, something that's in concept phase. We have actually deployed over 50 of these chargers throughout the United States and internationally, and we have over 107 sites that are in various stages of development today. So having built the only nationwide charging network that exists, we are ready for high cadence customer operations. So I think the main message of what I would like you to walk away from today with this is that this is here and happening now. We have moved beyond the proof of concept phase. Beta has actually taken our aircraft and we have flown over 125,000 nautical miles to date. We have a ticker on our website, so you can actually go and see how far we've flown with our fleet. We've flown these coast to coast in the United States multiple times, flown into the most complex airspace of Atlanta, JFK, and others. We've taken it to Europe and we have flown across Europe. We opened the Paris Air Show. Actually, our CEO and founder, Kyle Clark, flew in the Paris Air Show. And we also flew in Oshkosh. We've done 6-month customer deployments to operationalize and really see the full benefits of the technology over a long duration period. We did it with Air New Zealand in New Zealand, and we did it with Bristow in Norway. And as a result of that, we were able to kind of pull in that data on what are those lowered operational costs that we've been talking about. And what we've found thus far is that compared to their traditionally fueled counterparts, you are seeing a reduction of almost 40 to 70% in operating costs, depending on which of the aircraft variants you're using. So it's a significant change for aviation to see something like that. So zooming out, we talked about 3 challenges that we're solving for with electric aviation, which is economic survival, environmental responsibility, and global leadership. Electric propulsion drives down operating costs and reduces exposure to fuel price volatility. It aligns with the environmental and regulatory realities that are not going away. And it positions us as a leader in the global race for aviation. And aviation leadership has always translated to economic leadership. We're at an inflection point in the industry. And if history has taught us anything, it's not that the most futuristic design or the concept with the sexiest marketing campaign will be what defines this. It will be who can deploy a reliable, scalable solution. And this is what Beta's out to do. Our philosophy is, and has always been, that complexity does not equal aviation. Simplicity, executed with discipline, does. Simple enough to certify, simple enough to scale, simple enough to be revolutionary. And that is how we believe that we will lead the next era of aviation.